Hey everyone, welcome to the How to Create Your Own Training Program class. So, the overall goal of today's class is to get you to a point where you have a basic knowledge or basic fundamental knowledge required to create your own training program tailored to your specific fitness needs. And before we get into the training, if you hear any background noise or it's kind of echoey, I apologize. I just set up a new kind of studio for recording my podcast and these classroom trainings that I'm going to do going forward. So I'm still kind of working out the kinks, but this training's free. So I hope you just kind of ignore the extra noise if there is any. All right, let's get started. So why am I doing this? I fully believe those who excel in elite military training programs are those who are able to think independently about a problem and come up with a solution. So if you're a follower, you're gonna have to change. So basically what I mean here is these kind of elite military training schools, and I'll use Coast Guard Helicopter Rescue Summer School, for example, because I went through it in past. These schools are, or specifically the swimmer school, is looking for students who can be thrown into a situation that they have no previous knowledge about. So basically all you know is there's going to be a search and rescue case, there's people in the water, there's a boat sinking here, and you have 20 minutes to get there, and whenever you get on scene, you got to figure out what's going on and how to get people off the boat, how to get people out of the water. If there's injuries, you got to be able to assess the injuries and treat them, and then get them in the helicopter and get them home. So that requires a lot of well, I guess also whenever you go on a SAR case, it's just your flight mechanic and two pilots. So you're the only person going outside of the helicopter. So you're the only one that's you're going to be in charge of a certain situation, and there's no one really going to be there to back you up if you get in trouble. So at these schools, the instructors are looking for people who can take charge of a situation, gather all the relevant information, and make a decision quickly. And if you're not able to independently make your own training program that's going to get you in the proper shape to get through Coast Guard Helicopter Rescue Summer School or BUDS or the PJ selection, then you likely aren't going to have a chance anyways. So what I'm trying to do is give you a foundational kind of a point to jump off from and go forward as a independent thinker who can do things for themselves and who isn't going to be kind of beholden to someone kind of selling them a training program that says they're going to quote unquote pass school with that program. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I think one of the most important is students' ability to think for themselves and take in relevant information and come up with a solution quickly. All right, so let's move on. All right, so the layout of a typical training program, and this is the kind of layout that I use when I write training programs for myself. Currently, I don't train for any of these military training programs, but I train other people, and I run trail races in Colorado, and I create training programs built around certain races that I want to do well in. So a lot of these training programs that I make for these races and for my students who are training for BUDS, Coast Guard Helicopter Rescue Summer School, and the PJ selection, the training programs are really correlated as far as the way you set it up, because at the core, what you're really trying to do is build a foundational strength that you can build on and a strong aerobic base with some anaerobic kind of workouts thrown in there. So I'll go into that a little later. So we have 4 types of weeks in a typical, we'll call it a training block. So a training block is going to be roughly 6 to 10 weeks. And within those 6 to 10 weeks, there's these 4 types of training weeks That's what I'm going to call them going forward. So there's a base week. And if you took my base builder course, don't get this confused with the base builder training program. It's not related. So the base week is going to be early on in your training. And the overall goal of a base week is to build your aerobic capacity and foundational strength. And aerobic capacity, I'm going to go into these individual weeks a little bit later, but what your aerobic capacity is, it's basically your fat burning portion of it's the portion of when you're working out and you keep a heart rate below a certain point, it's in heart rate zones 1 through 3 generally. You're just burning fat. You're not burning really any carbohydrates. So your body's able to maintain that level of effort for a much longer period of time than if it was burning carbohydrates to kind of create ATP. That's why you can go on a 10-mile run, or maybe you can't, but if you ever gone on a really long, like the longest run you've ever been on, say it was like 10 miles, right? So you can hold that pace. It's a much easier and slower pace than if you ran a 400-meter sprinter on a track where you're completely anaerobic, burning carbohydrates, and your body, the second you kind of run out of that ATP or that carbohydrate store and you can't produce ATP, your body just stops working basically. Your legs start to burn and you're not able to continuously hold that pace. And your foundational strength is going to be, or as far as for military training, is going to be a lot of weight room stuff or really low volume calisthenics with an emphasis on great form. A lot of times for foundational strength, you can do negative stuff. So negative pull-ups. Negative pull-ups are great. When you kind of max out your pull-up effort, maybe you do like 15 pull-ups and you do like 5 negative pull-ups at the end. Like I said, I'll get back to that. The kind of workouts and individual exercises that are going to each one of those kind of base weekdays, I'll cover that a little bit later. So the next week is going to be intensity. So an intensity week is going to be higher volume at a low heart rate or heart rate zones 3 through 5. So I'm going to go into the intensity week a little later too, but basically an intensity week is going to be weeks where you're kind of maxing out your body as far as that training block goes. You're going to be doing high rep workouts, high volume swims and runs, or for the running, it's gonna be lower volume, but it's gonna be at a faster pace where you're putting more strain on your joints and muscles. You'll be more sore. But the kind of point of these intensity weeks is to get more anaerobic and kind of simulate the rigors of the training that you're going to be going through. The third type of week is a skill week. So if you're training to be a rescue swimmer or a PJ, and sometimes SEALs, I think they use, the buddy tow. So that's a skill. And basically a skill week is any type of training that is specific to whatever school you're going to. So if you're going to rescue swimmer school, you're going to be doing a ton of buddy towing and a lot of water confidence. So during a skill week, the emphasis is going to be on those types of things. So you're going to do a lot of, buddy breaks, do a lot of buddy towing. You're going to do lap tracers, half and halves, just tons of water confidence. And it's all going to be school specific. And the kind of final type of week is going to be a recovery week. So this is just a week that's light to moderate swimming and running with some mix of calisthenics. So the key for a recovery week is just to keep it light and allow your body to rest and absorb the training that you put in on the previous weeks. I'm going to pause to take a sip of my coffee. All right. So at the bottom, I put a little note. Skill weeks don't have to be in every training block. So this can go, the other 3 types of weeks will pretty much be in every training block, but a skill week, say you're pretty new to working out or you've worked out in the past, but you've been kind of slacking for the past year or 2 and you're kind of getting back into it and it's going to take a while. So if you're maybe, and ideally, if that's your case, you're still like maybe at least 6 to 8 months away from going to your training or joining the military, hopefully about a year. But you can just leave a skill week out because you don't really need to worry about buddy towing if you're barely able to swim 500 meters. So if you're brand new, you're going to have a huge base period and maybe a couple weeks of intensity and then a nice couple of weeks of recovery, but you're not going to throw in a skill week because there's just no need yet. And you can incorporate a skill weeks as you get closer to your training and as your kind of your fitness progresses to a point where you're able to throw those skill weeks in. So before we move on to breaking down the individual weeks and kind of workouts within those weeks, I'm just going to kind of give you a little background knowledge. So this is the definition of aerobic base. So the aerobic base is the physiological state in an athlete brought about by extensive training at low to moderate intensities. This type of training enhances the ability of the trained muscles to produce energy aerobically and especially using fat as the primary fuel. It supports the higher intensity training by allowing the athlete to recover faster from intense training. So basically what you need to get out of that is this is kind of a misconception, or maybe it's just something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. And if you're not familiar with it, it's not bad. It probably hasn't hindered you too much, but this is something that will really limit your maximum fitness potential if you're not aware of it. So you got to think of it basically as like a pyramid. So your aerobic base, that's your body's or your cardiovascular system's ability to supply oxygenated blood to your muscles in an efficient manner. So if you don't have a large aerobic base, then you're not going to be able to your body's not going to be able to support those higher heart rate efforts as well as it could if you had a bigger base. So the bigger your base is, the higher intensity and the more frequently you can do the harder workouts that are more grueling in your body, like a 400-meter repeat kind of, or maybe like a 1.5 mile timed run. If you have a low aerobic base, your body's going to kind of come up short, and you're not going to be able to really push your legs and get that oxygen to your muscles where you need it when you're kind of really tired. So when you train your aerobic base, you're allowing for key adaptations in your body to take place. New protein structures, denser capillary beds, increased mitochondrial mass, and changes to your heart. And these take weeks and months to show up. So it's important to know that your aerobic base is going to be built from workouts that are they seem easy to you because they're done at a low heart rate, target heart rate zone. So like generally it's zones 1 through 2, 1 and 2. And in these heart rate zones, I guess an example workout would be running 3 to 5 miles at a conversational pace. That's going to be, depending on your fitness, you're going to probably run that. So if you do 3 miles, you're going to run it probably in like 24 to 30 minutes at a conversational pace. Maybe a little, if you're starting out, maybe a little slower. That's going to seem really easy. And you're going to like halfway through the run, you're going to think it's kind of stupid that you're doing that. And why aren't you kind of pushing it and trying to see how fast you can go? But that's a mistake. And it's a mistake that I used to make, and people still make it. I mean, if you don't know anything about this, I would guess that the majority of people who work out make this mistake. And that's why you're here. So like, that's why this training is so beneficial, because it's going to give you a huge leg up on the people you're competing against for positions or selection, or just, it's going to lower your probability of quitting or failing in swimmer school or buds. But when you do those kind of slower paced runs, you're building new protein structures, you're building denser capillary beds, increased mitochondrial mass, and your heart is essentially just becoming a better pump. So all those things basically sum up to making you a better athlete, and making you giving you the base that you're going to need to kind of push it when you're doing sprints in the pool, or sprint 400-meter sprints, or you're doing your time 1.5 mile run for your PST. So this is the misconception I was talking about earlier, is how higher intensity training feels more satisfying. So if I write a workout for you, and you on Tuesday you're going out and you're doing a 5 mile run at a conversational pace after some PT. The run's going to seem really easy. You're going to kind of zone out during the run. It's going to just kind of feel like you're going through the motions. Excuse me. I just ate dinner. You're going to kind of feel like you're going through the motions, and you're not really getting a ton out of it. But that's just key aerobic base building. But if I give you a workout, say that Tuesday after some PT, that was 8 by 400-meter sprints with a minute rest, that's going to be pretty grueling. So your heart rate's going to get really high. You're going to be pretty much anaerobic for most of the workout, and you're going to feel exhausted. Your legs are going to be burning. You're going to be wanting to quit. You're going to kind of push through. And at the end of the workout, you're going to feel really satisfied. You're going to feel so satisfied. You're going to have that release of endorphins, and you're going to go home, whatever. You're going to eat dinner and go to bed, feel like you accomplished something. That's great and all, but if you don't have a great aerobic base, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're not going to be able to absorb the entire amount of training gains that come with a workout like that 400-meter sprint if you had built your aerobic base. And this is kind of the reason why these two bullets here. So when you do higher intensity workouts, your body is changing the pre-existing structure. So when we built the aerobic base, you're actually changing, your body's actually adapting to the training that you're putting on it. And you're creating new protein fibers. You're creating the whatever makes your heart pump better, more efficiently. You are kind of increasing your capillary density, or your capillaries are getting a little bigger, so you're able to pump more blood through it. But when you do these higher intensity workouts, you're only changing the pre-existing structure, so the changes aren't as drastic. And these adaptations only take a few hours to a few days, to where you'll see these kind of training gains. So if you do that 400-meter sprint workout, maybe 2 days later you'll feel really good, and you'll be able to do that same workout a little easier. But in the long run, you'll kind of plateau out and eventually not be able to kind of produce the same results that you were seeing early on. So another way to say it would be, there's huge diminishing returns to those kind of workouts with a low aerobic base. So too much high intensity creates a plateau. And this slide is pretty much what I just talked about. So the big thing you need to do is build that base. So build your aerobic base. All right, so we're going to move into the typical weeks within each of the 4 categories. And we'll start off with a base week. So for this first week, I went through and wrote up a whole week of training that would be kind of focused around building up a great aerobic base and foundational strength. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through the workout and kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm writing these workouts, and we'll go from there. So on a Monday, so what I do for a typical workout day is I have a set, when I write workouts for students, I have a set type of warm up that they can do. And I like to kind of give students the flexibility to warm up how they choose. But what you need to do is, for a typical warm up, this is like a land PT, not in the pool, but a typical warm up, you would do some mix of dynamic stretching, no static stretching, just all dynamic, and some like an easy conversational pace jog up to a half mile. So I typically will do like a quarter mile jog, I usually assign a half-mile jog for certain workouts, and it depends on the intensity. So for Monday, we're going to do some dynamic stretching and a jog, and then we're going to hit the weight room. And the key for Monday's weight training is going to be focusing on upper body strength. And another thing you need to work or can think about is finding the appropriate weight for yourself, where if you're doing 5 sets, you're increasing the weight 5 pounds per set. When you get to that last set, you want to be able to complete the last set, but almost to the point where you're kind of completely gassed and you can't do any more reps. So for today, we have in the weight room, we have dumbbell chest press, weighted pull-ups, dumbbell shoulder flies, and dumbbell chest press incline. And they're all 5 sets, 4 to 6 reps each. And this is all focused on building your foundational strength. And this strength will be used later on in the training to increase your push-ups, your pull-ups, and there's also going to be some core, but this day wouldn't have core. So there's core actually. I forgot I wrote core in. So the core routine will come after the workout. So you do your 5 sets of each of the 4 lifts, and you're resting 3 to 5 minutes between. I usually do 3 minutes, but I say 3 to 5 because you want to give your body the full period or as much as it needs to really rest up so you can complete that next set. So typically for me, that's 3 minutes. And after you do those 4 lifts, you're going to move on to a core routine, 5 rounds, 20 to 30 flutter kicks, pretty standard. I'm sure you know what flutter kicks are. 1 minute plank, 30-second side plank each side, and rest 1 minute. So you do that 5 times through, resting 1 minute after each of those exercises. And after the core routine, you'd move on to a aerobic base building type run. So you'd be running 3 to 5 miles at a conversational pace or a swim workout. And this depends on the day. So say for Monday, we're going to be doing a run. So I'd have you run 3 to 5 miles at a conversational pace, or you'd be writing this yourself. So you'd write in a 3 to 5 mile run at a conversational pace, and that would be your training day. Tuesday would be a pool PT day. So warm up is going to be the same as Monday. So every warm up day is kind of the same for me. If you're getting in the pool, your warm up can be a little different. Typically when I do a warm up, and this kind of varies on your fitness and kind of where you're at and with your water confidence, but I really like to do my phone's ringing. Give me 1 second. So I really like to do a kind of half and half, maybe 200 to 300 meter half and half to warm up. And that does a good job of warming up my shoulders, body, and also my lungs. So I'm kind of good to go for water confidence in that workout. But if you're not really used to water confidence drills like that, and you just want to do a good warm up, you can kind of just do a few push-ups and kind of just jump in the pool. I don't need a ton of warming up for the pool because a lot of times I'll even put on Tuesday, a 500 meter warm up swim. And that'd be a swim at an easy pace where you're just kind of cruising through the 500 meters, getting your body kind of ready to go for the harder portion of the workout. So after the 500 meter swim, you'd rest 2 minutes. And then we go into a PT swim workout. So for this one, you're going to swim 500 meters. And then every 50 meters, you're going to get out of the pool and do 5 to 10 push-ups. So you'd be completing anywhere from 50 to 100 push-ups. After that, you'd rest 5 minutes, and then we move into a 10 by 25 meter sprint exercise where you're resting 15 seconds between each sprint. So that's just an all-out sprint where you're going 25 meters, full length of the pool, resting, going back, full length of the pool, and then you're continuing that for 10 reps. And maybe you're thinking, well, I know since it's an aerobic base building period, it might be weird to think about doing 25 meter sprints at all out effort, but it's not a huge deal as much in the pool because there's not as much impact on your body. And you also want to, within those aerobic base building weeks, you want to have some anaerobic kind of training in there to keep your body used to it, but you're not making that the emphasis of the week. After those sprints, we move on to a 2-minute rest, and then we do a little bit of water confidence. So this is 4 by 25-meter underwater laps, resting 60 to 90 seconds between each. Now we'll move on to Wednesday. Wednesday's gonna be running and weights. So I'm gonna move a little bit faster through this because I realize I'm kind of probably talking a little too much about the workouts, just because it's not really the key isn't to have individual types of exercises. It's more to get the overall kind of layout of the training weeks. So I'm gonna move a little quicker here. So you have running and weights for Wednesday. You have your 4 strength exercises. It's more of a leg full body focus. So there's goblet squats, legs, walkie lunges, legs, hammer curls, biceps, overhead press, kettlebell. Overhead press is gonna be for your shoulders. And that's a good like shoulder isolation exercise. And then after those 4 weight training sets, we move into a swim workout. And this one is nice 500-meter warm up. And then you're going to go into some longer sprints where you're not going all out, but you're going at a more moderate pace, but for a more sustained period of time or distance. And then a few water confidence drills. So some underwater laps and then a couple half and halves or a few half and halves. Generally Thursdays, I like to make an easier day to give your body a little bit of time to catch up and kind of absorb those 3 days of training. And on an easy day, I'll assign an easy run or easy swim, or even a stationary or just stationary cycling or just cycling in general. You can go out and just ride your bike for half an hour to get the blood flowing. But the key here is to kind of regenerate and get ready for Friday. Also on an easy day, it's good to do some foam rolling. You should do foam rolling every day if you have one. I'm really bad at foam rolling. I don't do it a lot. I know I need to, and I didn't really when I was training, but it helps a ton. Whenever I do it, I really regret not doing it. I regret not doing it, but I just usually talk myself out of doing it. So don't do that. Do something else. All right, so Fridays I like to make them kind of fun. So like a fun Friday, right? The workouts in the summer, it depends on where you live. So when I was training, I was in Florida, so it was always warm. So I could just do like kind of fun workouts. I would go for like a beach kind of PT day, and then I'd go for like an ocean swim for a few miles, and that was a blast. But I understand most people don't live somewhere they can do that, so you got to make do with what you have. So typically what I'll assign for like a Friday workout is something more dynamic and kind of a mix of PT, running, and swimming. So for this day, you do your warm up, go out and run 2 miles. And this would be, because we went sort of easier for the first 3 days and first 4 days, the 2 mile run could be at more of a moderate pace. You're not going to go all out, but you're definitely pushing your body a little bit more, getting that heart rate up into zone 3, maybe zone 4, and just kind of getting the blood flowing a little faster and a little just gassing yourself a bit more than you were doing for the first 4 days. After the 2 mile run, hop in the pool, do a 500-meter swim. After the 500-meter swim, go back to another 2 mile run, and then hop back in the pool, another 500-meter swim, and then run 1 mile. So that's a pretty long day. I used to love, that was my favorite type of workout when I was a non-rate in the Coast Guard training for rescue swimmer school. I was in the Florida Keys, so I would drive up to the pool right when I got off work. I'd go for a nice 2 mile run, and then I'd just jump in the pool. And the pool was like right next to where the run ended, and we had like pull-up bars and stuff next to basically next to where the run ended, also by the pool entrance. So it was kind of a nice like convenient zone to get some PT in, and it was always nice out, So I know you maybe don't have access to that, but just make do with what you have. I know a lot of pools are mostly indoors. You're not in Florida, so if they're indoors, just accept that the rest time is going to be a little bit longer, or the transition between the running and swimming is going to be longer, but just get it done. Another type of fun workout would be a long ocean swim. So if you live in the beach and you like to go in the ocean, get in the ocean, swim 2 to 3 miles at just a nice, easy pace. Or if you're in the pool, go do a 1,500 to 2,000 meter swim at a comfortable pace, longer if you want. Maybe sometimes I do like swim for an hour, like just different goals like that. Swim for an hour, swim for an hour and a half, swim for an hour, do some PT, swim for half an hour. You know, you can do stuff like that to kind of mix up the kind of, you're used to kind of doing certain types of workouts in the pool and stuff. It can get boring. So making like a nice Friday fun workout is a good way to kind of keep your body guessing and keep yourself from getting kind of stagnant. So next type of week is an intensity week. So I wrote a workout out for Monday, and then the rest of the weeks I kind of made more general, and I'll just kind of talk about those type of workouts. So an intensity week is going to be a week where, like we talked about earlier, you're getting more into that anaerobic training and you're really pushing your body. Also, before I go forward, the base week is going to be typically at the beginning of a training block. So depending on your fitness level, if you're newer, you're doing a whole, maybe you're doing a whole kind of base training block. You'd make that base type of training 3 to 4 weeks of your training block. And then intensity week would come maybe right after that. So you'd have 3 weeks. So say 4 weeks of a base building period. And then you go into a 1 week of intensity. And then after that, you'd probably do a recovery week, but I'll talk about that later. So for an intensity week, say you're brand new, we'll just use a brand new student, for example, for the sake of this training. They just got through, or you just got through 4 weeks of training, and now you're ready to do an intensity week to kind of add on to that aerobic base, or kind of build that next block up on that aerobic base. The next kind of rung on the ladder, or that smaller portion of the pyramid. So you do a workout with consisting of 5 rounds, no rest, 10 to 15 burpees, 10 to 15 kettlebell swings, 7 to 10 pull-ups, and a 200-meter sprint. So that's going to be, I'm sure you know, that's going to be really hard. You're going to be out of breath, you're going to be gassed, and you're going to have a hard time finishing, but you just got to get through it. And a lot of times, because this is all about building your own workouts, you don't have to use those numbers that I assigned. You can, if you can only do 5 pull-ups, maybe you're going to be doing 2 to 3 pull-ups for those rounds, you know. Or maybe a lot of times, well, 200-meter sprint's pretty good. So 2 to 3 pull-ups, you do a 200-meter sprint, 10 to 15 burpees, pretty much anyone can do. And then 10 to 15 kettlebell swings, and you can pick the appropriate weight for you. Right after that, you head to the pool and you do a pretty hard pool workout where you're doing a nice warm up, then you're going into sprints, you go into some side strokes with the dive brick. It's a more skill specific type of training. You're doing some more water confidence, lap tracers, doing some underwater laps. So that would be kind of a hard day, but that would be an intensity week. So that's kind of the point of it. On Tuesday would be a heavy pool emphasis. So you're going to completely be in the pool, or you can do a little run at the end or cycle, depending on how hard you go in the pool. This workout would look sort of like what Mondays is, where you're doing a lot of short sprints, high intensity, short rest periods with some water confidence. And if you want, you can get a little bit of PT, but I wouldn't do PT if I was making this week, since I put Monday as kind of heavy with the 5 rounds with a good amount of PT. I wouldn't do any on Tuesday. Wednesday would be a pooled PT mix. So ideally Tuesday, you didn't do PT. Pool PT, you can do something like we did on the base building week, where you're doing, say, swimming 500 meters, and every 50 meters, you're jumping out of the pool, doing some flutter kicks, doing some push-ups, doing some burpees, and then jumping back in and swimming. So the only difference would be during intensity week, you would want to do a higher volume of whatever PT you're doing. So whatever push-ups, core. Sometimes you can do, my pool has like a pull-up bar really close to the pool, so I can get out and do pull-ups also. I know a lot of pools don't have that. This is the only pool I've really ever swam in that does. Thursday would still be an easy week for intensity week. So it'd be the same kind of thing, doing an easy run, conversational pace, easy swim at a just really relaxed effort. and then a lot of stretching and foam rolling. And then Friday would be just another fun day where you can do whatever you want, really. For intensity weeks, I like to do fartlek runs, if you know what those are. So basically, it's a word, it means speed play. So you go on a run, like maybe say a 5 to 6 mile run, and every 4 minutes, you're doing a sprint for 30 seconds. And the sprint's kind of all out at an all out pace. And then after those 30 seconds, you go back to your conversational pace and just keep running. And you repeat that for those 5 miles, 6 miles, whatever you're doing, your run, whatever your run distance is going to be for the day. Basically, you can also do, actually, for the fartlek, you can do PT in there too. So you can do 4 minute run and then do a bunch of push-ups, keep running, do a bunch of sit-ups, keep running, do a bunch of flutter kicks, find a pull-up bar, do pull-ups, keep running. So it's kind of like a fun workout that kind of keeps it kind of intense and keeps you kind of light in your feet, but is also going to be really challenging. All right, so this is a skill week. So on a skill week, also, it's important to know that like a skill week is going to be a lot of water confidence and kind of drill specific weeks to whatever training you're doing. So you're going to have a lot of extra time to do other PT and kind of runs and swims. So during these skill weeks, you're mixing in these water confidence drills, these buddy towing drills into a workout. That would be in like an intensity week or a base building week. So you do like a PT run on Monday and you head to the pool, and the pool workout would be maybe a 500-meter warm up. And then you move into a bunch of, if you have a partner, you can do buddy towing. If you don't have a partner, you can do side stroke with a 10-pound dive break on your hip. And the key in this week, like your overall goal is to increase your ability to increase your, say, if you're training for summer school, it's to increase your buddy tow. So on Monday, we're going to try to really, really hammer down buddy tow. What that means is you're going to be doing, maybe you're going to be doing a 500-meter buddy tow or a 500-meter side stroke with a brick on your hip, and you're going to rest, and you're going to do some sprints. And then you're going to move some lap tracers. You're going to do treading with the brick. You're going to do all those water confidence drills, those fun water confidence drills that you know about and that you know you have to kind of nail down before you head off to your training. On Tuesday, be a heavy pool day, so you can mix in a bunch of water confidence drills in sprints. So you can do like, start with your 500-meter warm up, do 10 by 25, or so let's do 5 by 50-meter sprints, but in between every 50-meter sprint, you got to do a lap tracer. So 50-meter sprint, say rest 30 seconds, do a lap tracer. 50-meter sprint, rest 30 seconds, do a lap tracer. And you're trying to integrate water confidence drills and sprints, because in rescue swimmer school, a lot of times that's what you're doing. You're doing a 200-meter buddy tow, and then the instructors have you grab some water, and then you move straight into a buddy brick, and then you rest for a second, then you go into a bunch of 200-meter sprints. You just don't know what's coming next. So you want your body to be able to kind of transition from water confidence to the cardiovascular efforts relatively easy. And that takes time, but that's kind of what a skill week would be doing for you. Wednesday, running in weights, do a fartlek run, CrossFit type workout. CrossFit type workouts, I don't do a ton of CrossFit type workouts anymore. I did a little bit kind of leading up to swimmer school because I knew we did them in training there. They're great. If you don't know a ton about CrossFit or those kind of workouts, don't worry too much about this. I'm not going to teach it because I don't do it anymore. But if you know something about CrossFit and you'd like to do CrossFit, maybe go to a CrossFit gym or kind of integrate that into your skill week, or you can put that into your intensity week. Thursday, as always, is going to be an easy day. So on an easy day during a skill week, you can just hit the pool, do a ton of water confidence. Friday, typical run, swim, run type workout. You can do water confidence, PT stuff, So you could do like 25-meter underwater lap, get out of the pool, do 10 push-ups, jump back in, 25-meter underwater lap, get out of the pool, rest a bit, 10 push-ups, and kind of vary it like that. And the key here is you're just learning the foundational kind of what you need to throw into a typical skill week, so you can kind of write your own workouts that are kind of oriented towards your needs, And I'll say this again probably at the end of the training, but if you go through this training and you start making your own workout plan and you're kind of confused or you're not sure if a certain workout or something fits into the training right, you can just like send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram and I will take a look at it and just let you know. I'll try to give you some feedback. So this would be a rest week. This is the last of the 4 weeks, 4 categories. And on a rest week, your goal is to completely regenerate. Get your body to the point where you're regenerating and absorbing your training that you took in for those past, say, 6 to 8 weeks. And you're allowing your body the time to kind of just rest and recoup. So you're going to do easy PT, easy running, easy volume swimming, have a nice rest day, maybe don't work out that Thursday, and then do a nice long run or long swim with some weight training on Friday. So this is an example. And just know that the key goal of a rest week is complete regeneration of the body. So you're not overtaxing your system and kind of increasing the risk of injury. So now we're going to talk about how we structure a typical training block. Those 4 categories are the building blocks, if you will, of a training block. And now we're going to talk about exactly what you want to do. So before you sit down to write your workout program, you're going to want to have a goal. And say, for example, your goal is to run a faster 1.5 mile, 1.5 mile run, or to swim a faster 500-meter swim. That's pretty common for pretty much all military athletes. So what does that actually mean for you? It means you're going to have a lot of intensity, because running 1.5 miles at your max capacity is hard. It's hard on your body. Same for the swim. You're going to have a training block your training block's going to have to be roughly 6 to 8 weeks, and could be 6 to 10 weeks depending on how much time you have and a few other factors, but we'll just keep it at 6 to 8 weeks for this example. And because it's a strictly cardiovascular goal for this training block, you can leave out your skill week. You don't need to worry about buddy towing or water confidence for this type of training. You're going to be really focusing on just getting that 1.5 mile run down and the 500-meter swim down. So lots of cardiovascular, lots of initial aerobic base building, and then a good amount of intensity, maybe 2 to 3 intensity weeks at the end of the training block. So ideally your base building week is going to be 2 to 3 weeks. And for those so we'll do 3 weeks. So those first 3 weeks, you're doing relatively easy workouts, building that strength and base, those foundational things that are going to help you kind of push towards the end of the training block. So after those 3 weeks, we'd throw in a week of intensity. And that'd be a high intensity week where you're doing lots of 400-meter sprint repeats for the 1.5 mile run improvement, and lots of 50-meter and 25-meter sprints for the 500-meter swim time to kind of get that down. Right after that intensity week, you'd have a rest week, because you got to allow your body the time to kind of just absorb those training gains from the intensity week. And then you can go back into another 1 to 2 weeks of intensity. And because you have those 2 to 3 weeks of that foundational aerobic base, you can go back into higher intensity and absorb those gains. And then the last week would be a rest week. So you just kind of take it easy before the end of your training block. And after that training block, you can go out and test your 1.5 mile or 500-meter swim. And this training block would be, 6 to 8 weeks. So after those 6 to 8 weeks, you do your test. And typically what I tell students is, after you go through a training block, give your body that rest week, like really take that rest week seriously. Eat good food, rest, stretch out, do some light running, light PT, and then after that week, go out and test what you wanted to improve. So go out and do a 1.5 miles run, do a 500 meter swim, and just see what your times are. If they got way better, great. If they didn't, likely that means you didn't have a great base building period, or you weren't going intense enough during your intensity weeks. And it varies. So you kind of have to self-diagnose at that point. And so since the training block is only 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to have multiple training blocks. The important thing is just to have a goal for those given training blocks. So you hit your goal. Now you want to move on to being able to do 500-meter buddy toes, and you want to be able to complete a 50-meter underwater lap. So your next training block is going to be focused around skills. So you want to have another, few weeks of base building, but those base building weeks can be kind of more integrated with water confidence, and they can be a little bit more intense than the first base building week because you have a better foundational strength and aerobic base, but you're still just trying to get your body warmed up again to get into those intensity weeks. Then you move into intensity weeks and you'd have, high volume, more water confidence mixed in with the high volume and kind of high intensity running and swimming. Typical layout, same thing with the rest week, 2 weeks of intensity and then a week rest. And you can vary the intensity weeks. You can maybe do a week rest, 1 week of intensity, and then another week rest, and then maybe your last week's intense week. And it just depends on the kind of athlete you are. So that's why I kind of want to give you more of a layout and kind of the building blocks that you can use to kind of piece together your own training plan that's ideal for you. So this is kind of what I just talked about. This is the new goal. This is your buddy towing and water confidence goal. So I'm going to skip through this slide. So that is the training for today. So just want to go over, talk about a little bit, or just kind of reiterate what you got out of today's training. So we learned about your aerobic base and why it's important. We learned about the 4 types of weeks that you need in your training block. We learned about examples of each week. So now you have kind of a few examples to use to kind of piece together your own training. And then we went over how to structure a training block based on your goals. But the only thing is there's more things that go into it than just that. Things always seem, from afar, things seem really complex. And then as you learn more and more, things seem to get easier and it seems less complex. But there's this point where, here, I'll just show you the next slide. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you learn a little bit about some form of information. So you learn how to build your own training plan and you get your confidence. If you can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse on this screen share thing, but my mouse is over the peak of Mount Stupid. So you learn just enough information to be dangerous, where you're too confident and you actually don't know everything you know, but you think you do. So that's the point where you can make dumb decisions and get hurt. After a while, you learn more information and you move into the valley of despair. So that's where you've learned more than you knew when you were at the peak of Mount Stupid, but you actually have less confidence now that you know more because you're realizing how complex something is. And eventually, as you learn more and more, your confidence goes up and up, and you get to this kind of plateau of sustainability where you know enough to be educated and make great decisions for yourself. So that's where we want to get you. We want to get you here within training, building a training block or constructing your own training plan. So how do we get to sustainability? In a few days, or maybe it's going to be a week, it kind of depends on my schedule going forward. The COVID kind of virus has been kind of wreaking havoc on everyone's lives. So my schedule's kind of hectic and I'm kind of trying to figure out when I can fit this in. But I'm going to be giving an in-depth class where I go through what I just did, what I just talked about, but I'm going to cover in way more detail. I'm going to give, for each week, I'm going to go through and give multiple types of workouts for each week, for each day. I'm going to talk more about the physiology behind building your aerobic base. I'm going to talk about, there's a lot that goes into building aerobic base. I'm going to talk about everything you know about that, to a point where it's kind of, it might seem almost like stupid, like you don't need to know that, but if you have that kind of base knowledge, it makes writing a training block and going through the motions seem a little more, it makes them seem more important, because a lot of times if you don't know the kind of background information, you might think it's kind of silly to spend 3 weeks building your aerobic base. But if you know the kind of physiology behind it, you realize how important it really is. And within this course that I'm going to be doing in a few days or about a week, I'm going to be offering some personal consulting, where I will basically, after you take the training, I'll have you write a workout plan. And then you write that workout plan, you'll send it to me, and I'll make notes, and kind of, I'll just mark it up, and make notes and offer suggestions. You can take that training program back, and then you can make the edits and then send it back to me. And we'll kind of go through that process as many times as it takes to kind of get the perfect training plan for you. And I realized that none of the pools and gyms are open, so you're not going to be able to immediately start that workout program. But that's kind of the beauty behind this course, is that you're going to have the time to go through, learn everything from the course, make your own training plan, and then the second your pool or gym opens up, you can immediately put that plan to action. And I think that's going to happen quicker than we all expect. Hopefully by the beginning of the summer, we can get back into the pool and start getting after it. If this full course sounds like something you'd be interested in, just go to rsmguide.com/toolkit. It's going to be way more in depth. It might be multiple videos depending on how long the videos are. I know an hour-long video can get a little boring. So I'd like to kind of break it up and make it more kind of actionable and kind of maybe faster paced. So all you got to do to get that program is go to rsmguide.com/toolkit, sign up, and because you're here and because you took the initiative to sign up for this training, I want to reward you and give you something that no one else is going to get. So if you sign up anytime between now and the day that the program's released, I'm going to give you a huge discount on this training. And it's only going to be people who took this initial free training. Only those people are going to get the discount. So just keep that in mind. And with that said, I have nothing else to talk about today. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.